You're watching Oilers Nation Everyday with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
I have a bruised right toenail, and now it feels like my right foot is slightly bigger than my left. Shit. It wasn't a joke. I'm seriously worried about the health of my feet. What do you think about that, Coom?
I wasn't expecting to do foot talk at the beginning of the show. I thought this would appear later in the episode.
In what's trending, perhaps.
It's probably the most interesting thing to talk about after this weekend is your feet.
How many likes and you'll show it?
1.
Oh, we got it.
I'm actually in a bit of discomfort. I'm sure many of you have bruised your toes before doing multiple things. Mine was playing a sport last night because I'm an athlete. And I kicked the ball, and I just kicked it wrong, and I just, jammed up my foot.
Which sport is this?
The Europeans call it football. That's
what do the North Americans call
soccer. So, yeah, it happened last night. I'm in a bit of discomfort, but I'll battle through for you guys. No Tyler today. He has a very busy day ahead of him doing off-site work, we'll call it. He's helping out the people. But welcome into the Oilers Nation Everyday and into the Sports Closet Studio. 3 locations: Sherwood Park Mall, St. Albert Center, Kingsway Mall. Go grab some merch. Oilers are back in action. Trade deadline's coming up. Maybe you can go get a jersey now, and then whoever they acquire, maybe Michael McCarron for a second-round pick, you can get McCarron put on the back.
Or just manifest now before they have the trade deadline. Buy a jersey for a player you want them to acquire. So if you're one of those people who's obsessing about John Gibson or something, go ahead and buy yourself a John Gibson Oilers jersey to just get things started.
Frederick.
Is that you would buy?
You're going to buy a Trent Frederick Oilers jersey?
I'd speak into existence.
Oh, what's yours?
You know what? I'm going to go with Brad Marchand. Why not? It's funny.
That is a good one. Mine's Jamie Alexiak.
Sure.
That's going to be a great one, I think. Also, the show is a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Use the code NATION. Whatever the moment is never ordinary at Bet365. We'll get into some game day betting later on, too. Jay will join the show a little bit later on. He's just, again, doing his job and making some time for us later, which we're always thankful for from Jay, so he'll give us some thoughts. Sure, he's got a couple of things to say about Evan Bouchard. I think that's fair to assume. But, Koon, before we get too deep into this game, just give us your overall assessment on it in a few words of this past weekend.
I'd say the past few games were somewhat worrying. I think we can give them a bit of a mulligan for the back-to-back in Philadelphia and Washington, given it was right out of the Four Nations break.
Early, too, kind of weird times.
Yeah, early games, weird. Give them a 2-game mulligan, but if those efforts continue through Tampa, Florida, and Carolina, all of whom are legit playoff teams, legit contenders, like the Oilers got absolutely worked in Washington. If they get worked like that again by 1 or 2 or all 3 of these teams, then that's worrying.
I think this is a good road trip for them to have so close to the deadline, because it's gonna show you who the players are. I think it's a tough stretch. It's almost like a playoff stretch, in a way, right? Obviously, you don't
all playoff opponents.
Yeah, like
except
huge,
for the Flyers,
huge game. But the Flyers, while they're not a playoff opponent, they're going to give you a game every single time. And also, one thing that was kind of thrown under the radar on the Flyers game too, it's the first time since October they've had everyone healthy. They don't have anyone on their IR. So they're not a bad team, obviously not as good as the 4 other teams on this road trip. But nevertheless, let's get into a bit of a game day preview here, brought to you by Service Credit Union. The Service Credit Big Share Contest is now in full swing with your chance to win $1 million just by saving money. Anyone can enter by becoming a member and saving with Service. Every $500 saved gives you 5 entries in the Service Big Share program. Contest ends April 30th, 2025. Skill test required. For rules, visit service.ca/win. Almost made it through. A little bit of news here from Christopher Palmer. Old friend Travis Dermott on waivers today. That is my jersey. Oh, you can go. Maybe some people already have a Travis Dermott jersey. I'm sure the Oilers have no interest in bringing back Travis Dermott. They had no interest in playing him when he was here.
I'd be surprised, yeah.
Yeah, but obviously tonight the Edmonton Oilers play the Tampa Bay Lightning. What are you expecting to see tonight going into this game? And what I guess the big question is, and it seems like an obvious and relatively easy question, but what's the biggest change you want to see ahead of tonight?
It'd be nice to see good defensive zone coverage would be the thing. I mean, The Oilers really have to tighten up defensively, like getting
Big time.
in all three of their losses here, the one before the break against Colorado and then these ones here against Philadelphia and Washington, the defense just hasn't looked like where it needs to be. It doesn't look like where it looked during the playoffs last season, during the long winning streak, even during that stretch in January. The Oilers had that strong stretch where they were playing all those road games. It was 8 games in different cities
like
across
that, yeah.
a couple of weeks, and they did really well over that stretch. But it seems like since February, they've kind of loosened up, and a lot of things are going by the wayside. The defensive zone's been bad. The forwards aren't playing as well defensively, and the goalies haven't obviously been able to come through and steal any games. It feels like it's been quite some time since the Oilers had a game stolen by their goalies.
Just looking back, thinking LA, I guess, obviously the 1-0 win for Edmonton has got to be on that list as like a game the goalies stole for them, or at least played like well enough to get them the win. I mean, whenever a goalie has a shutout, it's obviously a big moment for them. Wild game after, but that was like mid-January. So yeah, the goalies definitely need to come through. The Oilers during that stretch after found themselves down in a lot of games, and tonight you're going against the Tampa Bay team that's on a 5-game win streak on the home ice. They've been one of the better teams in the NHL, and I think they've seemed to have found their identity a little bit more. Like we were kind of talking on before the show of just like, hey, like this Tampa team obviously isn't who they used to be, is what we thought. But then like you go through and it's like they had a ton of guys at the Four Nations face off and ton of guys who played huge roles. And here you go, the team comparison. Excuse me, the Oilers obviously have 2 more wins than them, and we've played 1 more game. I think that would add up to Tampa Bay is better than the Oilers in all 4 categories on this list. Goals for 3.6 to 3.3. Goals against per game, 2.7 to 2.9. The differences aren't like that drastic by any means. Like the power play is 1.9% better at 26.9%, and then the penalty kill is slightly better at just over 6% as well. So Tampa Bay, obviously a team with a lot of veteran players who have been there and done that, and something the Oilers want to try and do. But this is a game tonight. I think this is... It has to be labeled as a must-win, right? Like you don't want to lose 4 in a row and kind of like keep losing your grip on the division title. Obviously, the Vegas Golden Knights lost last night to the LA Kings, which was big for the Oilers, but you need to get back tied with them for the division.
Yeah, especially with what they have coming up on the docket. I mean, the next game after this, and Thursday, will be the first time the Oilers have played in Florida since Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final back in June. So, I mean, do you want to be going into that game against the Panthers on your first 4-game losing streak of the season? This is just the second time this year they've lost 3 games in a row, with the first time, of course, being losing to Winnipeg, Calgary, and Chicago right out of the gate early in the season when they looked out of sorts. They looked burnt out from the long playoff run, a quick summer. But at this point in time of the year, this is, getting into March here, it's one thing to look like that in October. It's another thing to look like that now.
Yeah, and I think that seems to be a common trend for this team when they're coming back from, we'll call it breaks. Like obviously the start of the season, they have camp and everything, but you know what I mean? Like coming to the season, you lose 3 in a row. You come out of the Christmas break, you lose back-to-back games on the Mums trip in LA and Anaheim. Played a little bit better in LA than maybe you are playing a divisional opponent too at home. And then you come out of this break too and you lose 3 games in a row. Like, it doesn't worry me going into the playoffs that like they're going to start slow, because like that usually ramps up right away, right? And also too, the Oilers always lose game 1 of the playoffs. It's just a trend. Like they obviously won the last one, but before that it was many years. But at what point, I guess the question is like, what is the concern level if they lose tonight and then going into Florida and then like you come out of this road trip and all of a sudden you haven't won a game?
Yeah, that's sort of the worrying thing is you do look at the schedule coming up and you think Tampa, Florida, Carolina. Yeah. They're already on a 3-game losing streak. Like, I don't want to knock on wood.
Yeah, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
It's easy to look at the schedule and think, oh, man, this could spiral out of control pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You don't want that before the trade deadline, because all the other GMs are going to be looking and talking to Stan Bowman and thinking, well, you're on a 4, 5, 6-game losing streak at this time of the year. You're desperate, and you're in a perfect position to get fleeced if that's the case. Yeah,
let's take a look in the Odd Company YouTube chat and see what people are talking about right now. Obviously, we're pumped to be partnered with Odd Company Brewing to bring you the all-new Nation beer, and it's obviously, you all know by now, it's called the Nation Beer Everyday Lager, perfect for your next big game, which is tonight against Tampa Bay. Find out Odd Company Brewing and at Liquor Connect. Get your Nation Beer Lager everywhere now. There's a comment right at the top. Kurdum03. I've not seen your name in the chat many times, but you were the first comment of the day. And
He came ready today.
Yeah, you were ready. And I think it's a fair point, but we did do a bit of research on it. This team is soft as baby shit. Like it's the NBA. They currently sit dead last in hits with a minus 400 in differential in hits. This is the softest Oilers team I've seen in 25 years as a fan. If you're not going to get physical to draw players' reaction, especially when you're down a couple of goals, you're only lacking momentum to crawl back. Hitting is overlooked in this era of the NHL. It's just as important as making cute plays. Just ask Jordan Tutu. If you're in the chat right now, let us know your thoughts on Kurdum03's comments on the Oilers hits.
Jordan Tutu's phone number.
Yeah, maybe he's available. The Tutu train. Who doesn't want to be that? But what do you make of that, Coom? Do you think, like, it's well known the Oilers are not the most physical team in the league, like Kurdum said, they're last in the NHL. But how much stock do you put in the physicality of things? Like, this is a team that obviously went to the Stanley Cup final last year and weren't overly physical then either.
Yeah, I don't disagree that it's somewhat concerning that they're in 30 seconds specifically. You don't want to be in dead last in that category, but I think if you look at the list of
other teams,
the hits. The teams that are at the top of the bottom in hits in the NHL, it's a real mixed bag. Like, you have a team like Boston leading the way, and then Florida's right after that. So you have the Bruins hitting everybody, and they're struggling. The Panthers, we all know, they're physical. They're hard to play against. But then you have other teams at the bottom as well that are stronger teams as well.
Yeah, it is.
Do we have the list to pull up?
I was going to say, Reese, where was the list that you found? Reese looked it up before. Statpros.com. Okay, we'll get that on the list as well to come up. But when you look at the top 10, a lot of it was kind of, I think we counted 4 of the teams in the top 10 were playoff teams, and it was your Florida, New Jersey, I think Ottawa was one of them, and maybe the Maple Leafs as well. And then at the bottom, like Vegas wasn't too far away, and I would say they're known as like a rough and tumble
There's
team.
a lot of different ways that teams can win games, and I don't think we're sitting here being like, there's 32 teams in the league all playing the exact same style, trying to win the same way. But I do understand. It does feel like the Oilers last year, and we talked about this more at the beginning of the season when they were struggling, but it feels like the Oilers had a bit more size and speed on the forecheck and the back check last year than they do this year. It feels like the team's a bit smaller and easier to knock around. Like, I feel like if you're a defenseman on the opposing team, you don't worry about facing the Oilers and having them come in hard and crash and bang on you. It's not going to be a difficult night that way that it was for defensemen last year.
Which actually, I think, and it's kind of, he's an undersized forward, but I think that's why Matthew Savoy can be useful on this team. We obviously saw that he's not going to go in there and slam you through the boards, but he's going to go in there and he's going to put a little bit of contact in you to like try and get that puck back. And like, that's what you want to see from Arvidsson. And obviously we'll get into Jeff Skinner right away here as well, but like clearly they've wanted to see something from him. But like, yeah, the Oilers, it seems like just not as tenacious as they have been. Spencer Potter, if you're hitting a lot, then you're chasing it. Yeah, that's also a great point of it as well. And like Florida feels like the team that doesn't make sense about this because they're obviously an elite team, but that's just their style. They're just very different. Where were the Panthers rated in hits last year? I would assume if they're first this year, they were very high up the list as well. Dacky looking sharp today, Liam. Oh, thank you very much. Address myself. There you go. There's the top. There's the list. Florida Panthers in first with 1,658. Vancouver second. Boston third. Ottawa fifth, and the Devils in Ottawa fourth, the Devils in fifth.
So who else is bad then? The Oilers down at 32.
Let's have a look. So down to the bottom.
Dallas is a strong team. Yeah. Tampa, Carolina, Vegas. I wouldn't expect to see Vegas that low. I thought they were a more physical team than that. Tampa, it's a real mixed bag, like the Capitals too. It's,
Minnesota. I think it's a surprising one to me. Minnesota.
I think it's hard to be a good possession team and a good physical team at the same time.
And that's the thing too. But I do understand the point from Kernham because sometimes you look and it's like, oh, let's finish a game with like 4 hits.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you doing that? They are.
Yeah. Because who leads the team even? Like who's their heaviest hitter?
Colson for sure.
Yeah, that's probably not what you want.
No, definitely not. Like you want him up there, but like you
think guys like Mattias Janmark, Connor Brown would be throwing it around more a little bit maybe, but there really aren't that many guys up and down the lineup that
I think that'll be interesting to see tonight, the kind of physicality they have. And let's get into the lineup report quickly here, brought to you by Oodle Noodle. Running from right now until March 2nd, which is coming up pretty quick. I think that's Sunday, right? Go into an Oodle Noodle and fill out the free ballot to enter for a draw on a spot to win into the nation vacation. I mumbled my words so hard on that one. You can also win a second value of any purchase. Must be 21 years or older with a valid passport to enter Oodle. Visit oodlenoodle.ca for more details. It's a great one. Oh, Matthew, today is my birthday, and all I want is Evander Kane to return. Well, Louie DeBrusk is going to come up within the next 5 minutes or so here, and we're going to ask him a little bit on, maybe a little bit of an update on Evander Kane and see where he's at. But the Oilers made some changes today, and let's, to say the least, are a bit controversial, Aaron. If we have the lines to throw up there for the home team. Here we go. First line from Tony Bra, Victor Arvidsson, Connor McDavid, Zach Hyman. Second line, Podkolzin, Draisaitl, Matthew Savoy. Third line, Mattias Janmark, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor Brown. Fourth line, Kasperi Kapanen, Adam Henrique, Corey Perry. Blue line, one change on the blue line. Matthias Ekholm and Bouchard together. Nurse back in the lineup is Troy Stecher, Brett Kulak, and Ty Emerson. Stuart Skinner will get the start. Koom, let's get your initial thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they want to do Matt Savoy in the top six. You're not going to call up your top prospect from Bakersfield and play him third, fourth line minutes. But I don't feel like that should be a reason for Jeff Skinner to be knocked out of the top six. Like,
me too.
He's been one of the team's most productive forwards since the calendar flipped to 2025. I mean, it took him a long time to get going this year, and now it seems like he kind of is finally getting going. And he was looking good with Leon Draisaitl before the Four Nations break, and I don't know why you'd want to get rid of that momentum. Like Victor Arvidsson and Vasily Podkolzin have each only scored 3 goals in January and February, I believe. So not like those two guys are producing that much. I don't know why they can't find a spot for both Skinner and Savoy in the top six.
I would agree. I actually think it's relatively easy
Give him
to
at least a few games, right? Like,
yeah, totally. Like, I think Skinner's earned an opportunity with McDavid, to be honest.
Sure.
I think Arvidsson's earned an opportunity to watch the game from the press box.
Yeah.
And I honestly, like, even if you don't want to take Arvidsson out, Kasperi Kapanen was on the ice for 3 goals against Washington the other day. And granted, like, everyone played kind of poorly, but like, for a guy that came into the lineup, you need more than that. So I just don't get it. And it seems like a lot of people in the chat are agreeing. It's a really baffling thing to see for Knobloch
Liam,
again.
you made a joke about this happening yesterday on the show, and we all laughed. And we laughed because it was true.
Yeah.
And here we are 24 hours later, and it happened again. The thing is that, like, before the break, dude, everything you wanted to see from Jeff Skinner, everything Nobby's been asking for, we were getting. It was back-checking. It was preventing goals against in front of his own net while still providing offense and doing all those things. I really thought out of this break we were going to get Jeff Skinner next to Leon Draisaitl. You drop in Matt Savoy, and now it just feels Jeff Skinner thrown by the wayside yet again by Coach Knobloch.
I'd much rather just see put Skinner on that top line with McDavid and Hyman, move Arvidsson down to the third line, and then Janmark down to the fourth. You could even switch Brown and Perry as well and do the Janmark, Henrique, Brown line from the playoffs and have a line that could maybe score with Arvidsson, Nugent-Hopkins, and Corey Perry. Of all the combinations of players you could put together, this one seems weird.
Yeah, I agree. So far this season, Arvidsson alongside McDavid and Hyman has played just over 30 minutes, which is about, they're saying it's 3 games played on natural stat trick. They've been outscored 4-1.
It's not very good.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Out of curiosity, let's have a quick peek here and see what Skinner is with McDavid and Hyman, if that has happened very often. There you go. Skinner with McDavid and Hyman, 27 minutes, 10 seconds. They've also been outscored 4-1. But Skinner with Leon Draisaitl and Podkolzin, let's just say those two, played 50 minutes, 24 seconds. They have outscored their opponents 2-0, outshot them 15-10. I don't know. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But the other part of it, too, obviously, is John Klingberg out of the lineup. I think that's a good decision. You've got to get Stecher. And I don't think Stecher, did anything to earn a spot watching from above. I think it's just kind of a circumstantial thing. You need Klingberg to get some games. I honestly am surprised we're seeing Stecher because I thought they were just going to run Klingberg until the deadline just to get max out of him. But he hasn't really earned it either to stay in the lineup. And I think Stecher, he's going to go out there and what you're going to get from him. Like, is he going to make a mistake? Maybe, but I feel like it's not going to be like as egregious as what Klingberg did. He's not very like a risky player, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like this whole lineup from Chris Knoblauch, I mean, we just got finished being like, this is a weird lineup. It doesn't really make any sense, but if you try and put yourself in Knoblauch's shoes, you're scratching Jeff Skinner and John Klingberg, veteran players who can be fairly risky and can be known to be poor defensively. That you know, it's not a guarantee that's going to be the case, but seems what he's trying to go with here is the lineup that can stop the bleeding, just given how many goals they've allowed in their last handful of games. I mean, in Washington, it was 7 goals, and then in Philadelphia, it was 6. Colorado, right before the break, it was 5. So I think against Tampa, you're looking at a team with a really, really good offense. You're hoping to keep that at 3 or lower, and it's been a while since the Oilers had a game against a good team where they only allowed, 1, 2, or 3 goals.
It probably was either Minnesota, probably one of those Minnesota games, I would guess.
Yeah, I'm looking through the last time they played like a serious contender playoff opponent and only allowed 3 goals was when they lost to the Capitals back at the start of that home stretch in January. They lost 3-2.
Yeah, and then before that, Colorado, they allowed 3. Minnesota, they allowed 3. LA 0.
Yeah.
Like, you had a good game against Vegas not too long before that, I guess. Actually, maybe that's a bit further back than I'm recalling. But, yeah, now that you talk about, like, the defensive structure of it, that makes a bit more sense. I just think it's harsh on Skinner. And it's a conversation we've had so many times this season on, like, this guy, like, he's... What is he now? 31 years old. He's played 1,000 games in the NHL. Like, you can try and mold him as much as you want to, like, be something else. But, like, I think he's giving you the best he can give in moments and like these defensive moments.
He's doing everything Nobby was asking of him.
Yeah, and that's got to be like, it's got to be good enough at one point, isn't it? And like you see Arvidsson against Philadelphia and against Washington, and again we spoke about it on the show, and like I appreciate the physicality he was trying to bring of like when he took that penalty in it, but it resulted in Chychrun scoring and making it a 3-1 game going into the second period or the third period or whatever it was, second period it was, wasn't it? And it's just like that's not right. Like, that shouldn't happen. And if you're making that mistake, like we saw Janmark against Philly, like, he had a terrible turnover, and he ended up in the press box. I think Arvidsson should have been the one sitting out here, but nevertheless, like...
Showcasing him, Liam. Showcasing him.
Do you think they should trade him? Would you consider trading him?
I definitely would consider trading him. I don't really know who's looking to grab that contract, given it has another year on it at $4 million. That's a pretty heavy contract, and you're probably going to have to take something back the other way. I mean, it's not like it's not going to work. It's not like it's impossible. We've seen the Vancouver Canucks make in-season deals where they're moving bad contracts in and out and doing things like that, but... Yeah, it was Jeff Skinner people talked about earlier in the season, getting him to waive his no move, but I think Victor Arvidsson's the more problematic contract given that it stretches 1 more year.
Totally. $4.1 million. Ty and I were debating yesterday if like the Kraken would maybe take him on and like you could get Alexiak back. You kind of like throw in a pick or two. Like I don't think it's like the craziest idea. I think Tyler suggested deal is throwing a first-round pick to that deal. I would not do that. That's tough. I would not do that in a million years. But either way, do we have Louie? Is Louie around yet?
No, but somebody just said something disgusting in the chat.
Oh, so that's good.
He's getting booted.
Okay, so let's move on to some game notes from Star Mechanical. Star Mechanical is one of Edmonton's biggest locally owned and operating plumbing and heating businesses. They've been working within the community for over 20 years, and many of the homes built in Edmonton over the last 2 decades have had their plumbing and heating systems installed by Star Mechanical. Visit them at starmechanical.ca to schedule an appointment and let them keep your home running smoothly. Game notes today. Connor McDavid is 3 assists away from 700 in the NHL. However, he does not get assists against the Tampa Bay Lightning. There's only one team that Connor McDavid has fewer assists against in the NHL. Do you want to take a guess who it is?
Seattle? Vegas?
Utah.
Oh. Well, does that because they reset their stats?
Yeah,
okay, there you go.
He only has 7 assists against the Tampa Bay Lightning in 13 games, which is still like a very good number for an average player. But McDavid, and we want to talk about it right away. And Zach Lang wrote an article about it on Oilers Nation. Like, since the suspension, he has just not been the same player.
We did not expect this at all.
No. And Ty and I spoke about it yesterday. We haven't seen that, like, he had a really good December, but we haven't seen that, like, pure dominance from Connor McDavid. And there's a lot of numbers on the screen here, but Coom, can you maybe give us a bit of a breakdown of what this means?
Yeah, the blue is good, and the more red, the warm colors are bad. And what we're kind of looking at here is the production these main forwards on the Oilers have had, kind of their big four forwards this season, and then the lower two graphs are comparing versus 2023-24 and 22-23. And what you kind of notice that jumps off is Connor McDavid among those guys is well down from what he's done in the past. And Zach had an interesting stat in this article, which is that since he came back from his suspension, the Connor Garland cross-checking suspension, the Oilers have been outscored 12-3 at even strength with McDavid on the ice, which is shocking.
That is bad.
We even when McDavid has stretches where he doesn't look like himself, the more rough stretches, it's not something like this where the Oilers are getting caved in while he's on the ice. This is something I can't remember seeing a stretch like this in the McDavid era where the Oilers are having this hard of a time producing with him on the ice.
Yeah, it's really weird. And I wonder if it has something to do with inconsistent line mates. It feels like his line mates are changing quite often to try and find a bit of chemistry. Like, I really do hope after the deadline things adjust a little bit more and we just see a bit more consistency within the lines every game. But obviously, Nuge and Hyman are the two guys you would want to have with him, and I think you really need to see that together a bit more on top of, like, McDavid trying to get going. Like, you need Hyman to get moving a little bit, too. Like
Hyman and Nuge, both of them.
Yeah, like they've definitely had moments as well this season. I don't think when you compare it to many other players on this team, like, it's they've been fine, but yeah, I really wanted to see a little bit more from McDavid. A little bit more on the game notes today. Tampa Bay Lightning are on a 5-game win streak as well coming into tonight. Obviously had a lot of, not ideal. They lost at home again on January 18th, which should give you a little bit of hope because it was against the Chicago Blackhawks.
They're scoring like crazy, though. You look at this winning streak. They had the 2 wins over the Sens, 4-3 and 5-1. They beat Detroit 6-3. They beat Montreal 5-3, and they just beat Seattle 4-1. So we're just talking about how it's been a while since the Oilers have allowed fewer than 3 goals. It's also been a while since Tampa didn't score 3 or more goals.
Perfect. And you know, I like that. Now that you mention it in the lineup again, like, just to bring it up, like, the defensive idea of, like, what this team should be, like, does make a lot of sense, but it also screams that they probably need another defenseman to come into the lineup, which, let's chat about that quickly. I'll show for a giant question of the day. Let me pull up my short Ford ad read, Aaron, really quickly here. There we go. Free valet service for all Oilers fans. Never visit a dealership again for a car service. Get your exclusive swag package with every Nation valet service booked online and get automatically entered into a monthly prize draw. Book online at sherwoodford.ca to make sure you add Nation Valet in the pickup comments to get in the draw. Also, at Sherwood Ford, you can get $500 towards a service plan for all Oilers Nation fans with vehicle purchase. Oilers Nation fans, your destination, your hockey destination is Sherwood Ford.
Yeah.
We're out.
Good.
Okay, you Sherwood Ford giant question. I thought of this one on the fly because we already talked about the question I had written down. So you see the lineup. Obviously, Darnell Nurse is still in dire need of a partner, and the Oilers are desperately needing a defenseman. Who is someone that you think that's maybe should become the number 1 target on the blue line? I was reading NHL Sid's article the other day, and he had Ollie Matter on the list, who is not on anybody's list right now, but he's kind of idea around it, and maybe this shifts a little bit after Valimaki went onto waivers yesterday, but his idea was Utah, who Tyler's also mentioned of a lot of defensemen and could become a trade partner, as just a lot of guys. If Jersey comes back, John Marino comes back, then all of a sudden that left side is really stacked up. So you have Ollie Matter, defensive guy. Maybe you go 11-7 with him, or maybe you just bump up Brett Kulak. And they're like, with the amount of defensive lapses we've seen in this team, maybe having like a pure defensive guy in Matter isn't so bad on your third pair. And I know he's like not the most glamorous in the world, but he's perfectly fine. Like, I don't think he's a massive liability. Offense isn't going to come about, but like, what do you think of an Ollie Matter as a fit in Edmonton?
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, I don't want to say that the Oilers are missing Cody Ceci and Vincent Darnay this season, and that's what's gone wrong. But there is an element of those players with their skill sets not being on the roster, and I think making an impact specifically on the team's penalty kill, those late game situations, maybe when they're trying to stop the bleeding or they're trying to protect a lead. I think they're missing sort of some physicality in the defensive zone and someone you can just kind of send out there and mop up situations like that. That's probably a good thing because this trade market doesn't really feature many offensive puck-moving defensemen. And
very few, yeah.
Yeah, the Oilers might have to just be sticking with Klingberg and, like you said, looking for more of that big physical shutdown guy. But then again, where do they even fit into the lineup then if you keep Klingberg in and you bring somebody else new? Are you moving Klingberg in that trade? It's a lot of weird things to juggle, given that I don't know if they've necessarily committed to Klingberg for the season and the playoffs with that contract per se, but it does sort of feel the way they've talked about him that they feel quite comfortable with that addition. Yeah,
if you had to give Klingberg a grade, what would you give him?
I mean, somewhere between probably B-, C+. It's only been a handful of games, and it's a difficult context for him to come back with the being out for over a year after having surgery. But
yeah,
this is someone who it's hard to say if this was really the specific fit the Oilers were looking for on their blue line, because even when Klingberg was a good player, he was still prone to those lapses, and the Oilers already have a couple of those guys on their blue line playing big minutes, so bringing in another one to play big minutes, you suddenly have 3 out of your 4 top defensemen being guys that tend to have those things. So I'm still skeptical of the fit, but I mean, given how he's performed, I think he's been fine given the context.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Do we have the Edmonton Police Service video, Aaron?
Of Tyler?
Yeah, that one will work.
No.
Great.
But I have a video from Sherwood Ford.
Oh, let's throw that one up
of
then.
Our lovely friends.
Okay, let's take a look and see what our friends at Sherwood Ford are talking about today for the keys to victory.
4!
Okay.
Oilers need to watch out. They have to avoid losing 4 games in a row. The last time they lost 4 games in a row was the first 4 games of the season. The last time Stuart Skinner gave up 5 goals this season, he followed it up by making 30 for 30 saves in a 1-0 win. Does he have another bounce back in him tonight? Let's go Oilers!
Did you know Leon Draisaitl has scored 8 goals in the last 10 games against the Lightning, and he scored in both games since returning from the break? Let's go Oilers! Woo!
Did you know that, Jay? Leon Draisaitl, 8 goals in his last 10 games against the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's also has 6 goals in his last 5 games. Jay, the ultimate question, will he get his 7th goal in 6 games tonight?
I don't think he'll ever stop scoring.
That is true. Do you know he's like only 20 away from, I think it's 4th all time on the Oilers list to get past Yuri Curry? I think
Say he does it this year.
I would agree. He's on pace for 60 right now.
I'd love to see it. It'd be good for Leon to hit 60. 60 is such a powerful number in the goal scoring space.
It does feel
70 really tops, but
yeah, 70 is.
Imagine 80.
Oh,
boy, oh boy.
Those were the days, Coop.
Now we're talking.
Those were the days.
Has anyone scored? Gretzky probably scored 80. Right?
I think he scored 92 or 90 something.
Teemu Solani got, what, 76?
As a rookie.
Did Alex McGillney get to 80?
I don't know.
Did that happen, 82? Is that a number? Is that real? Well, it is a
Let's
real
have a
number.
look.
McGillney's real.
He is a real guy.
McGillney had
Reese
76
says Brett
one
Hull
year.
got 87.
87.
So there we go.
Brett Hull.
And I think that year he got 87. He didn't score an empty net goal.
So the best. So it's Gretzky with 92, Gretzky with 87, Brett Hull with 86, Mario Lemieux 85, and then McGillney had 76. So I made up 82.
Well, that's okay.
It was no 82.
Jay, you obviously missed the first part of the show, but let's get your thoughts on the lineup quickly. Jeff Skinner.
Show me.
Have you seen it?
No, I've been
Busy man. Okay, let's pull it up here, Aaron.
So Jeff Skinner
is
healthy scratch?
out of the lineup for tonight. Yeah. Victor Arvidsson is on the top line next to McDavid and Zach Hyman.
Got to get him going.
Podkolzin next to Draisaitl and Matthew Savoy. Third line, Janmark. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor Brown. Fourth line, Kasperi Kapanen, Adam Henrique, and Corey Perry. What do you make of that?
I say, where do you find room to put Jeff Skinner in?
I think you probably could have moved Arvidsson down the lineup. So here's what I would have done. If you want to keep Arvidsson in, you could put Skinner where Janmark or Arvidsson in, and wherever, flip one of them on the top line, third line, whatever. Mm-hmm. I would have scratched Kasperi Kapanen. He came into the game against Washington and was on the ice for 3 goals against.
Wasn't everyone on the ice for 3 goals against?
He was one of 4 forwards that was on the ice for 3 goals against. I just think for a guy who came into the lineup and didn't have much impact on it, you'd want to see a bit more from him. And Skinner scored.
Yeah, that's fair. And it was a nice goal. Showing off his edge work.
Yes, he did. So do you think it warranted him being out of the lineup?
I don't know. It's what I do know is we were the flattest team
it was brutal.
On Earth. We were flat earthers this past weekend. So I really don't care what we do. I just want to see an effort tonight.
Yeah, and it seems
So
like
I'm
he's
trusting Nobby here.
Arvidsson did bring effort. We said it
He-
just
that
it
was-
was a bad penalty, but at least he was doing something
yeah.
about it.
Finally, we got feisty Arvidsson.
Finally.
So I'm wondering. I'd love to know what's changed. Maybe the threats of being healthy scratched in that.
Maybe.
Trade deadline's coming up.
Formation. Yeah, he's up in his trade value. Sure.
yeah.
But doesn't want to get traded. One of the two.
Kuhn brought up the idea of like maybe you just want to go for a more defensively structured game tonight. Like Klingberg is also out of the lineup, by the way. Troy Stecher is in next to Donnell Nurse, and like they're not really like high risk players.
You
Are
gotta
they?
get Stecher
So
in.
yeah, he hasn't played since the Toronto game.
Yeah.
So
you got to get him in.
I asked Kuhn just before you came on, but what grade would you give John Klingberg so far? I think he's played 7 games now for the Oilers. Scored his first goal.
Yeah, he did. And a guy was with bet that goal. So
Oh, really?
yeah, he was pretty pumped.
Yeah,
about
that was a brunch for Ben, right?
That was a
What
brunch
was
for
that
Ben.
at? That must have been like
Plus, it was
700.
plus 1,500 or plus
Holy
1,400.
moly.
Okay. Yeah, he said 15 to 1, so I don't know if he was how he was determining that, but yeah, so that was juicy. Like he's shown moments. Like it's still a long road to recovery from what he's going through, but he shows moments where you're like, yeah, okay, you can tell this guy's
Got something.
He's got something. So we're a ways from truly seeing it. So if I'm gonna like really kind of give him benefit of the doubt with my grading, I'd probably say a C plus.
I think that's fair. I just think that like that 2-week break wasn't helpful for him at all. Like he skated with the Oil Kings and I was good, but like you can only practice
Not the
so
same
much.
pace, right?
No, definitely.
He needs
not.
the NHL pace, that kind of game rather than practicing.
Well,
Yeah, and obviously only one NHL team in town, so he couldn't skate with anyone else. And hey, maybe if there was an injury on Sweden, he would have got called up. In Finland, he would have definitely been called up. They would have no players like
They were running out of NHL players.
They
weren't
literally had one other defenseman to pick from.
Who was the last guy that
Billy
didn't get taken?
Halino, is that his
That
name?
must suck to be that guy.
I know. Being the old
You were literally picked last for Team Finland. You were not wanted.
The other guy too, Manny Polo, I think his name is, Apollo or something like that. He was playing in the American League when he got called up. Heleno's in the NHL and wasn't called up. You went to a Four Nations game.
I did. Yeah, I went to the
Sweden game. What did you think of it? Is that the first time you in the Bell Center?
First time in the Bell Center.
Yeah.
It's the Bell Center is you hear it from hockey players and media that is the rink. That is like the cathedral of hockey. And it truly is for many reasons. Like the fans, I wish all of us were like Montreal fans. Like there is an energy and a buzz in the building. And yes, we're like that in the playoffs, but this is the first game of a tournament that who knows what it's going to be like. And the Olays are going, and just all the Mario, their love for Sid, and just obviously they're a Canadian hockey market, so very knowledgeable. Also, the one thing I noticed, and I was pointing it out to BM, is that ring holds like 20,000 plus, so bigger capacity than Rogers, but you feel closer to everyone in the building, like
Isn't
to
it, like,
far
really
side of the
steep,
ice
too?
It's super steep, and the ceiling's lower, so it creates a very intimate environment, similar to old Rexall. Right, like
the bandbox environment.
Yeah, and we could pop the top off of that place, right? Bell Center has that, and they have the fans to really fill the space. Where the challenge for us is, even if we are giving her a little bit in Rogers, it's such a big area to fill.
Yeah, it like when you're in the press box, like we experienced it in the playoffs. It
feels like you're watching from an airplane or something.
Yeah, but like you don't really feel it when you're I know like you're in the roof and it's a lot different, but like you're right, like it's hard to be like fully invested in it when you're at Rogers sometimes. Like
I could feel it in Rexall more than I could feel it in Rogers.
Yeah.
Oh,
You don't get that same vibration that you feel in your seat, and that the air just feels tight. In Rexall, or in Rogers, it feels really open now.
yeah, it's and so
More spread out.
Bell Center has that, and obviously they have their traditions. Like Team Canada came out, so it was a little bit different, but the Canadians come out to Coldplay Fix You, so they take instead of like the pump up like electronic kind of approach to pump people up, they go like the deep emotional.
deep.
Like the Canucks last year with the U2 opening.
Oh
in the
yeah,
playoffs. That
Streets
was
have
good.
no name.
Yep.
Yeah,
That was a
no,
good-
I
that
actually
was
hated
good.
that.
You didn't like it?
Just
Oh yeah, I
'cause
remember we
it's
talked
them.
about this.
Because they're Irish?
They're Irish. Yeah, that's why
They
you hate
are
them. You're
Irish, yeah.
anti-Irish.
But The funny thing about the Vancouver one is we were obviously there for games 1 and 2 of that series, wasn't it? Yeah. That pregame took so long. Like, I remember it just taking forever, and like, I don't know, maybe
Puck drop would be like 45 minutes after the time that it said on like the.
Yeah. Still nothing from Louie or Aaron?
Nothing for Louie, but I have a question for Jay because it was one thing, and Liam, we mentioned it earlier. So I'm doing pregaming on Saturday, and I'm talking this Four Nations break. I thought would be no more useful to anyone than Evan Bouchard. The man's played a lot of puck in the last 365 days, a lot of minutes over that. And I was like, we're getting a new Bouch. We're getting a new Bouch. Literally 2 minutes into that hockey game, he turned the puck over and it goes the other way. I'm curious your thoughts on Evan Bouchard's performance this weekend. And did you think he'd be a different man after the break? Because I did. And I feel kind of stupid that I did.
Well, if I'm being honest, I didn't really put much thought into Evan Bouchard in the break, and that I don't mean that. Obviously, I've got my brand.
Yeah,
and
just a healthy mental break from him.
Yeah, and so now to put some thought into it, the one person who did benefit from this break was Alexander Ovechkin.
Holy moly! He had 9 shots the other day.
Yeah, he's gonna like break the record next week.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So shout out to him. And I remember even Frank had said as we were having a chat with him, he's like, "Oh, he's gonna come back from this break and he's just gonna be fired up."
Yeah,
he's gonna get to 900 goals this year.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess if the game's been weighing on him, because there's a lot of pressure on Bush this year, right? He had a big season last year. He's in the last year of his bridge. So there's a lot of pressure there for him to perform, and clearly that is weighing on him.
Big
so
time.
maybe that break could have been beneficial, but he is the same Evan Bouchard that he was leading up to the break, and that's not ideal. That's not ideal.
He just really needs to find the mistakes he's making is so unnecessary. Like the one against the second goal, like. I guess he's stuck on it. I guess it's like somewhat excusable in a way in comparison to the first one. But like you're going across the blue line and you're doing a drop pass to no one but you should see that because you just skated across that exact spot. It's like know where it is, but like it's quite alarming to be honest. Of like just I really did think after the great debate that we had that he was
take Mo Sider now.
I thought about it a little bit more. I'll be honest.
You've seen him play, right?
Sider, I just believe in Boosh so much because we saw the high of it and how good he was in like the playoffs.
He was still bad defensively,
but he was making up for it so much more offensively that it excusable is the wrong word, but it was like you could almost live with it.
But this is the whole polarizing debate about Evan Bouchard.
Yeah,
is that he's a defensive liability who can score, but he's positioned as a number 1 defenseman. So you're gonna have to pay him as a number 1. And that's where it gets really off the rails.
You got to compensate with the rest of your lineup too, right? Like I agree Bouchard's a great player, but he needs to have a defenseman next to him like Ekholm, and eventually Ekholm's going to retire and they have to replace him. And you also have to have forwards on the ice that can buy in and play a good defensive game, both in terms of their back check and their defense's own coverage. So that gets pricey, and you're already paying Nurse 9.25. You're going to probably have to pay Bouchard over 10 if he has a huge playoff run. And you got to flesh out the rest of the lineup around a player that isn't a 10 out of 10 slam dunk number 1 D-man.
And that's the thing. Like Bush is an enigma, right? It's because he's going to command that high salary when actually he needs to be insulated for him to truly be that beast.
Yeah.
And it's so if he's making $7 million, that's fine because then you can put like a $5 million like just defensive first defenseman. To carry those mistakes, and then as a unit, they're solid. But that's not going to happen.
Would you bridge him again?
Right to UFA, just like Darnell Nurse. Just do it again. The whole situation over again.
mean,
like if it's, say you can bridge him at 7.5.
How about a 1-year deal that takes him to RFA again? And then he gets to retry having the contract year.
I don't like. Now
I don't want this year again.
There's what the Oilers are going to want to try to do, and what Bouchard's camp now after this year is going to want to try to lock in for as long term as possible, and try to cash in on the recency bias of last season.
I honestly have no idea what's going to happen with him. It's such an interesting one because like he doesn't deserve the 10 million.
And now
right
the Mo Sider trade is off the table. Like it's
Was it
Bouchard
on the table?
it's Bouchard and a first for Mo Sider now.
No, they probably
Liam,
not
stop
first.
it.
Since
Stop
that
it.
argument
Stop
was
it.
had, Jay is
Stop it
winning
if
by
you
a
think
mile.
if Mo Sider is not. He is a legitimate number one defender.
I just don't know if I'd throw in the first.
Oh, fuck.
Maybe a second. Either way.
For Mo Sider at $8 million for 6 more years.
Is that what he's at?
Something like 8.5.
I think it's 8.5.
Extremely comfortable, and he is a legit number one defenseman.
There was, and I should tell you this,
And this trade will never happen, but let's just keep pretending.
there was a gentleman in the chat after that show. His name was Joey, and I haven't said this yet because we haven't brought it up since. He was well on your side. If you want to go back and read a comment, he put a lot in there. And he comments on our chat a lot, so I'll give him a bit of a shout out here. But let's move on from the Bouchard debate, I guess. Keys to Victory brought to you by Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. Sherwood Power Sports and Marine's Price Thor event is going with savings on motorcycles, boats, and ATVs. Sherwood Power Sports and Marine is also heading to Edmonton Boat and Sportsman Show from March 22nd to 23rd. Come and join us to view all the latest boats along with ATVs. We also have a dedicated booth for fish and tackle.
Got to get your tackle. Have we talked about the Nation Valet at all this show? Is there a plan?
We did. I did this giant question already. Do you have something to add?
Last week to enter to win a spot on the vacation. So I need an oil change. That means you likely need an oil change. We all need oil changes or any type of servicing. So please reach out to Sherwood Ford.
Last week for Oodle Noodle, too.
It's also last week for Oodle Noodle. So combine. Go to Oodle Noodle while your car is at Nation Valet it. Go to Oodle Noodle. And have double your chances to enter. Get delicious food, order the Tokyo Glaze, 10% goes to Sports Central.
And then come to Flight Night at Greta on March 14th, and you could win.
So many ways to win, but do them all.
We want you to come on this trip.
Love your car.
So bad.
Love your car.
Yeah.
Yep.
And have a chance to win.
I had a Oodle Noodle the other day, and I introduced it to my future father-in-law.
Are you engaged?
I am engaged. December 27th.
Oh, I knew this.
Yeah, you did.
Shout out Charm Diamonds again.
Wait, you got engaged on
Charm
December
Diamonds.
27th?
So much going on.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was one day before my wedding.
That's why I did it. I didn't want to take away
you
the
were-
spotlight.
You were itching thinking about my wedding, and you were like, you know what? Why not?
And I couldn't do Christmas Day. That's obviously Santa's Day. So I couldn't do that. Boxing Day, Mike Tyson Day, obviously, boxing. And the 27th was just wide open for me.
That's pretty reasonable.
Liam's Day.
Liam's Day, but now known as Liam's Day. But yeah, I introduced him to Oodle Noodle. He had the Bangkok pad thai.
Pad Thai, yeah.
He loved it, and also he had a green onion cake for the first time.
Ooh.
That's
life changing.
yeah,
Welcome
but
to Edmonton.
I wasn't a fan that he liked him because that means I get less.
Well, then order more.
I know. I probably should just do that next time. But your Sherwood Power Sports and Marine keys to victory tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Coom, you want to go first?
I think my key to victory is going to be ensuring the Lightning don't score more than 3 goals. That's going to be the key for the Oilers. We talked about this quite a bit earlier. It's been a while since the Oilers have been able to hold any opponent down. The Lightning are a high-scoring team. They have a very, very good top 6 offense, and given the way the Oilers played over the weekend, they got embarrassed. They got worked by the Capitals. They played poorly against the Flyers. They looked out of sorts against Washington. Like they weren't a Stanley Cup contender. Like Washington made them look like they were the rebuild era Oilers. So if they're going to come and prove a different point on Tuesday against Tampa Bay, then it's got to be a point defensively, I think.
The rebuild era Oilers is not a sentence I wanted to said on the show.
That's not what we're thinking for 2025.
Yeah, that was brutal times. But Jay, what's your key to victory tonight?
I wasn't really thinking of this, and this should apply to the bet I have, but I didn't put this factor. This game needs to be an under, and it needs to
big
be
time.
It needs to be an under because defensively, to Coombs' point, they need to show up, and the goalie needs to stop pucks. Like this is not this. This is like let one goal in max.
Yeah.
Like Oilers win 2-1. I want this to be the boringest hockey game,
Big time.
because I want them to just focus on those details and get that mojo back.
It's not easy to score on that, guys. You don't have much room for error. It's not like Skinner can allow 4 goals and the Oilers are going to put up 5 or 6 on Vasilevsky. I mean, it happens, but I wouldn't bank on it.
Obviously, the Oilers beat Tampa Bay earlier this season, too, 2-1. And Skinner played really, really well in that game. I think 30-plus saves, if I'm remembering correctly, or maybe that was a 22 save game, whatever it was. He only allowed 1 goal, and that's all I really care about. But goalie stats on the screen there. Andrei Vasilevsky this season, 2.29 goals against with a 920 save percentage and 3 shutouts. Stuart Skinner, 2.81 goals against and an 898 save percentage.
Just not good
trickled
enough.
down from 900
I
the other
know,
day.
but man, it's
needs
not
to be
good
better.
enough. Look at the top 5 teams in the league, and what is their starting goalie's save percentage?
Who are the top 5 teams in the league?
Top 5 teams in the league: the Jets, Capitals, Stars, Golden Knights, and Leafs. And their save percentage, .915 for the Jets. We know Hellebuck's good. Washington, of course. Thompson. They're at .909. Dallas, we all know. Ottinger. Vegas, .896. So they haven't had good goaltending.
Leafs have
96.
Stolars, who was killing
And then
it.
the Leafs have Stolars, who's been killing it when he's
been
healthy.
injured,
But he's been injured a bit.
Yeah,
So
and we also saw Joseph Wall when the Oilers played him the other day make his few saves. Dubnyk was on the show yesterday. He was awesome. He's going to be a weekly guest with us. Just talking about the goaltending a little bit, and he said the Oilers got to be less chaotic in front of him too. Like they're making, like Skinner's making life hard for himself, and so is Picker. But like the team in front of him is not helping because it's becoming so unpredictable for him of what's going to happen. I think that's my key to victory tonight. Is like just calm down. Like there was so many moments in these games the last 2 where it's just like guys didn't seem to know where they were supposed to be, and it's like you're a veteran team, like you're the oldest team in the league or one of wherever they're at right now. It's like you need to settle into the games a lot quicker and stop these goals at the ends of periods as well. Like Washington, it was such a bad thing for them, like goals really late, and it screwed them up. Like obviously we mentioned the Arvidsson penalty, it was like to the Chychrun goal, and then Connor McMichael got one right at the end of the second period as well. You don't allow those 2 goals, and it's easier to say, but like you're in a much better situation going into the third period. So they just got to figure it out, because what everyone tells me when I say the goaltending is good and they think it's bad is like, oh, well, this team gives up so few chances. So, okay, well, prove that tonight. Like, show your team defense and come out. And again, Koom, I think that you're right with what you said of like maybe the changes in the lineup are to limit those risky plays. But let's move on to the our betting challenge. It's been a few weeks, Jay, so hopefully you've regrouped some ideas. But
Well, I'm going pretty. I really wish I tacked on the under this.
Yeah, this bet was very unlucky.
Yeah.
Today.
I know.
you can go over to
I sent it very early.
You did. Yeah, first thing I woke up to was that.
I've had a busy day, and I'm like, I gotta get this bet sent in before this training thing I'm on starts. But anyways,
you can go over to Bet365 if you want to bet on tonight's game. Download the app, use the code NATION. It's never ordinary at Bet365. We have Jay's bet first, Aaron, or who's going first?
I'll do Jay's first, because you and Ty have kind of switched here on how you're doing this. So Jay's.
Oh, interesting. So Jay's bet, there you go. Zach Hyman and an Edmonton Oilers moneyline win, plus 275. It was plus 300 when you sent it this morning.
it was,
though.
yeah.
Yeah,
The
so
lines. Well, obviously, I've moved the line.
yes, you've moved
Obviously.
the
You got
line.
value. You got value.
I got value. So, well, Hyman's just due to score. And if this is going to be hard working, gritty game, that's the guy. That's Johnny Lunch Bucket right there for us. And then money line, because we just need a win. And I
So
really
bad.
should have smashed the under on that. So I'm going to be running to my office after this and putting a nice chunk on the under tonight, because that's how. If the Oilers win, it's because it's the under.
The under is plus 105. It's 6.5 as well over on Bet365. Sorry.
Lehman.
I had Leon Draisaitl goal plus 110. I mean, he's, like we said, he's just on this absolute streak right now. He seems to be the only player that's playing well for the Oilers. So plus
Matt
110.
Savoy.
Matt Savoy, I love him. I think he's so good.
He fits in.
Perfectly.
He fits in. I'm shocked.
He didn't look out of place whatsoever.
No. I hope they give him a bit of a run tonight. Like, I don't need 20 minutes from him by
he's
any
averaged
means.
1150 thus far.
Let's see if we can get up to like 14 minutes with him. I think
14,
is a
15.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good total with him. Money lines tonight, both minus 110.
It's a coin flip.
It is an absolute coin flip.
Were we underdogged in Washington?
No, I think we've
no.
been
Best team in the league. We're on the road.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
favorites. What a league.
What has Ty got, Aaron?
Jay, your brain is really Ty's brain today, because he has the under
Whoa.
money line and Leon 2 points.
He
So-
went under 5.5.
Under
Yeah.
5.5, Oilers money line, dry 2 points, plus 1600.
Yeah, that's
Do you know what?
The-
That's a good one.
the Draisaitl thing's gonna hurt that one, because if it's a 2-1 game, like this game's gritty. This is
That's who's going to score for the Oilers if they win this game, right? Like, That's who's putting up points. If they win 2-1, it's probably 2 Draisaitl points.
Well, it's probably a Janmark goal and a Janmark or Connor Brown goal, right? It's something gritty and probably
Troy
a Leon
Stecher goal.
Hopefully a Hyman goal.
Holy moly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. In his last 17 games, Leon Draisaitl has only not had a point in 1.
Oh, yeah.
He's the new Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid is, and I know we're talking, like, Connor McDavid is still the best player in the world. And I know McKinnon won the MVP of the tournament and blah, 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 blah. It's just Connor is in a little bit of a funk right now.
100%.
And I can't wait for him to come out of that.
What was that stat you said, Coom? Since his suspension, McDavid has been outscored 12-4. Right?
Yeah, let me pull up that stat. Since getting back from his suspension where he with what's his name on Vancouver? Connor Garland. The Oilers have been outscored where is it? 12-3 at even strength with McDavid on the ice.
3. Yeah, he's got to figure it out, to be honest. It sounds crazy to say.
So
he's still putting up like a point a game.
So we can't it's just it'll come back. It's not him. He's got to figure it out. It's got to come back.
The wise words of Jordan Bennington. Do I look nervous? We're good.
Got to give that guy his flowers. That guy is a supreme gamer.
Yeah, he was that
overtime showing. Damn,
he should
honestly
have won
the whole
MVP.
Final. He was. He finished that tournament with a 907. Which is really solid.
Well.
I mean,
that's coming from an Oilers fan. Come on, 907 is not.
Yeah, we get really excited over 907.
No, I think that's really good considering, like, maybe not the number itself, but like you think about the goals that he allowed. Like,
it was 2 bad games and then 2 good games, right? Like it was the U.S. Sweden the first 2 games, then Finland U.S. the next 2 games. I think it was two different goalies.
But in the clutch.
In the clutch, yeah. When the games really started to matter, it was.
Oh man,
I still don't think I would trade for him, but either way,
yeah, I don't know.
Kind of a part of it. Okay,
we should do a Binnington Parayko Shen package.
That's like
imagine that's your answer.
That would help. What is that? Probably like 16 million in cap space.
So what are you sending back? Like Nurse and Skinner,
Arvidsson.
7th round pick.
You got it. Well, and Shen must be a UFA. Someone must.
No, he has like 3 years left.
Does he?
All those guys have to.
Well, that's tough one. That's your answer.
There was a rumor that the Shen brothers might want to be traded to a team together to like go and compete for a cup. I don't know if Oilers that spot because they make a lot of money. But either way, we got to run because I got to go do O&R right away here, unfortunately. So thank you everyone for watching. Oh, score prediction, Jay?
2-1.
2-1.
I'm going 3-1 with the empty net goal for the Oilers.
Empty net. Aaron?
4-2 for the Edmonton Oilers.
Still under, so I like it.
Yeah.
I'll say 3-2 overtime. Oilers.
Under.
We'll take it. Under game.
One's
there you
an
go.
empty net. It's going to be an empty net. It's going to be close the entire way.
Pre-game in 4:30?
4:30 this afternoon. 3.5 hours away. Me and Zachary Lang.
There you go. Tune into that. Thank you everyone for watching today. We'll see you tomorrow and Tyler's back. Oil up.
Oil up.